computer. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So today on Conversations with Coco, we are joined by Angela, who is the podcaster and YouTuber of Puros and Music. Let me tell you something. She is so funny. I stumbled upon her podcast. I stumbled upon your podcast on YouTube one Sunday morning. Sunday is when I do my whole binge watching of cigar videos. And your video, I don't know how it came up, but you know how you watching stuff on YouTube and then it'll say next video playing, and yours was the next one to come up. And I was like, oh, now it's nice to finally see a woman doing a podcast about cigars, and not just cigar reviews, but actually a podcast that included music that you can play on YouTube, but that you can play on Spotify. So she's on Spotify too. So what made you start your podcast?
Oh, hold on. My door just flew right open. Oh my goodness. I forgot to lock the Well, people, I'm so sorry, Coco.
Listen, this is how things happen.
So I like how you frame that, because me and Marcy, we're the original two co-hosts. I do have other guests on here, other co-hosts, this and that. I do interviews, but we were like, you know what? We see a lot of cigar podcasts and they're great, but I watch them, but we were like, there's not really ladies. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of, put the camera on and hit record, and we just all of a sudden you try not to get too shy in front of the camera and just go. Right. So yeah. I mean, my love of cigars goes way back, and being a DJ, and I'm not really shy, but I'm sure, as you know, it's funny, once you hit record, you're like like you don't know what to say. Yeah. So, but
So, okay, so you and Martin, and her name was escaping me until you said it. Because here's the funny part. Every time I see her, and when you all do your introduce yourself, hi, I'm Angela, this is Marcy, I immediately say Marsha. I don't know why I say that. I don't know why I do that. I don't know why. So I didn't want to say Marsha and be wrong.
Now you're gonna have me doing that. And whenever I hear that, I always think, oh, my nose, because that's and
I was like, oh, that should not. But sometimes that's how I do a group association, because I'm retired education. So I would always assign different attributes to different kids so I could remember their names. So that's 100%. Old habits die hard.
What I know you're the interviewer, but may I ask you a question? What did you were a teacher? Or
I was not a teacher. I worked in administration in middle school from 6th to 8th grade.
Oh, well, I understand that, because I don't know if you've seen on my podcast, my side hustle, because DJing doesn't cover doesn't give you medical insurance. So right. I drive a school bus in the day. Mm-hmm. I work with K through 8. Okay. But one of my buses is 7th and 8th graders. It's packed with 7th and 8th graders. So, I mean, I'm sure we could have some stories about some 8th graders.
I'm pretty sure.
So, yeah.
But you know what? The best part for me in education was first day of school and last day of school, because I always saw them come in as one part of their personality. And by the time that grade went through, it was like, wow, he either stayed really shy, or she stayed shy, or she blossomed and they were social butterflies and they were the one you always gotta say, that type of thing. So
oh yeah. And it's watch them grow too, physically grow. Like, I have a kid, you could sometimes they grow right out of their pants. And this time of year, I have this one 2nd grade student, his legs are like, I'm like, I want to, you can't really say much, you can't say much these days. You right. Can't really, you're not really allowed to hug them either like you used to. Honestly, exactly. Because I'm a mom, but the kindergartners are so cute. But I just want to be like, whoa, your legs are like 4 inches taller,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. these kids.
Exactly. Like, you told my child his legs were 4 inches longer. It's like, okay, it was a compliment, but okay, I get it. I guess I don't know. I'm of an age where I'm still the hugger. I am still going to give you my opinion, whether you want it or not, and whether it's politically correct or not. And so that comes back to the cigar world, because when I was well, not teaching, but when I was in education, I would have never thought that I would be smoking a cigar, like, ever. And I've only been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
yeah,
have,
2 years.
I haven't been doing it. I've been doing it a bit longer, but not. I haven't. I picked it up later in life.
Mhm.
Much later. I never smoked cigarettes. I never smoked. I just always loved the smell of cigars since I was a
Right.
little girl, because my uncle smoked around us and this and that. But I didn't. Yeah, me too. I'm not. Uh, Same. It's
Well,
fun because actually I kind of grew up with my mom being like, don't do this, don't do that. So
mhm,
I always had in my head like that was bad. But then
right,
as I became my kids are older now. They're 18, they're twins. I have boys. But when they were like, getting older with the teens and stuff, I'm thinking, listen, I'm my grandma's age at the finally I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up a cigar and
right, right.
have it in my head like, what are you gonna do that for? But
Yeah,
I couldn't wait any longer. Like I always thought, even ever since I smelled it when I was like a little girl, I used to think like, yeah, like in the movies, like
yes.
Bugs Bunny, I'd be like, I want a cigar one day, I want a cigar. But so I finally did.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question. So how do your children feel knowing that their mom is a cigar smoker and has a podcast about smoking cigars and does cigar reviews and things like that? Are they like, oh yeah, that's my mom, or oh God, that's my mom?
It's funny, a little bit at first, I didn't really tell them, to be honest
Mhm.
with you, in the beginning. And I smoked here and there. I don't smoke in my home, I don't smoke in my car. But I'm actually in a one-car garage. It's kind of like a barn. It's detached from my home, right? So when I
Mhm.
converted this side of it right to the podcast studio, but still like I could see the lawnmower and everything, right? In here. So my son, now that they're older, of course, it's one of my son's jobs to like, do the lawn. So they know fully now, because I'd be like, you have to be 21,
Mhm.
this and that. But now they're down because they're graduating 12th grade, believe it or not. They're already, enrolled. We're getting ready to committed to their colleges. So they're, young adults. So at this moment in time, and it's funny too, because there's one of the schools here. I'm in the Hudson Valley of New York.
Mhm. Mhm.
And one of their friends, they get cigars at their school as a graduation gift, which I'm
Wow.
thinking, okay, they're 18, but they're not 21. But I thought it was cool. But so they were like, "Oh, Mama, we're gonna have a cigar with our friends now." And I'm like, I guess I opened up Pandora's box because I never, I don't know. It's kind of like, to me, I don't have any qualms about cigars. Obviously, I love cigars, but I just didn't, I just don't. I just don't know. It's like weird. My whole thought process changed because I kind of grew up with like, smoking
Right.
bad, and I would never want my kids to like smoke.
Right.
But a cigar is a different ball game. I mean, if they're gonna, I didn't probably want them to start so early, but hey,
Mhm.
I mean, what can you do? I don't think
Right.
they will. We'll see. We'll see
And
what happens. Go off to school. They'll be like, my mama does it. I'm gonna be doing it.
right. And that's the thing, because I have children too. They're all older. But and so I have grandchildren, and it's funny because my grandchildren are on Instagram, and so when I post my cigar videos, they like them, and I'm like, am I sending the wrong message here? And I'm like, whatever. I'm 58. You know, they know what their Nina does, type of thing. But it was like, it's funny because when you think about podcasts, and this goes back to the point you were saying that you and Marcy had your discussion, that when I looked up cigar podcasts, right? I have only like, it's me, there's you. Um, I think that's it. Or is there more? Like, I can't find women
Women, yeah.
cigar podcasts. And
Yes,
I
and
don't know if I'm not typing it in right or what it is, but if you do cigar podcasts, hundreds of men will come up. They're, friends or groups and it's like, women smoke too, which is a shout out to one of my sponsors of Women Smoke Cigars, because she started a product line for women smoke cigars. And, there's a lot of products out there for cigar smokers, right? Most of them are geared toward men. And even the products that are made by women are still a little bit more geared toward the men and not the women. So when I find women accessories, I tend to go overboard.
Mhm.
That's one of my OCD qualities. But have you found that while you if you do you smoke when you DJ? And if you do you get that awkward like, oh, do you know what you're doing with that, Miss DJ?
That's a good question. No, I don't. I only smoke when I DJ when there's a cigar bar at the wedding.
Okay.
At the time, I do not. So when there's everyone smoking cigars, at a vineyard wedding or something under, obviously it's an outside, well, not obvious. I don't know if it's obvious or not, but outside weddings. It depends, I guess, maybe on the state or the venue.
Mhm.
But in that moment, nobody they don't but they do say like, damn girl, like, go, you like him too, and I'm like, yeah, this DJ. But I don't know. I only smoke when there's a cigar bar, and I actually offer cigar bar for my clients. I don't. I don't roll cigars, but I have people that can come in and roll.
Mhm.
For the wedding event, or the venue has someone they could hire. But if there's the bar, I'll be smoking for sure. But I can't really do both actually. Anyway, because I've done it where and are we gonna light up? I wasn't sure.
Great. Listen, because I'm retired, I literally smoke all day. So I don't know what I was thinking about this morning. I had one. I was like, oh, I'm gonna smoke this on the podcast today. La, 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 la. And I'm just smoking it. And then I was like, oh, let me go get a cup of coffee. And then I was like, God damn, I'm finished. So I try to pace myself. So I'm not due to light up another one until 1 o'clock. But feel free and then tell me what you're gonna smoke.
Oh, okay. But I was gonna say, I'm gonna light this up. But I can't if I'm over the decks. I just heard a sound. Hope there is not a gopher in here.
Oh, listen.
I didn't want Ash to get on my equipment, so
Okay.
so
Got
that's that. But yeah, actually, I actually grabbed the Viva La Vida. Have you tried the you can see that by our Artisano Del.
I have not had that one, so I'm gonna have to. And I find that a lot of cigars that of people that I'm interviewing, they're not offered where I am. So I think it's like regional or based off of if that salesperson has made its way to down the eastern seaboard or whatever. But I have a girlfriend that just opened a cigar lounge, so because she's new, well, she is about 30 minutes from me. She's in Virginia. So shout out to Orleans After Dark. That is her cigar lounge. And she's new. So I always try to, when someone says, oh, I have this cigar, that cigar, I always take note and I write it down. Then I go do a little bit of research on it so I can give her the, like, hey, let's try this one. Because most of the time, like, I'm one of her best cigar friends. And see, I'm gonna screen grab that one so I can send it to her and say, hey, I need you to try this one. I need you to try that one. So when you started your podcast, what did you intentionally think that it was going to be about cigar reviews, or was this just two women getting together, smoking a cigar and letting the conversation happen?
Both. Good question. First, I did reviews. I had this idea of like the 25 cigars of Christmas, and I kind of put that up. And then right in that moment, I was like, oh, boom, like I need to expand this into like a more kind of professional feel podcast. So that's when I already had known Marcy, and I just said like, are you down? Because I knew she was into cigars and she's a mom. And so she was just so down. And I was like, all right, come over and let's just see what happens. And also she does community theater.
Mhm.
So I was in theater in like high school and college and stuff. So again, like, of course I DJ, but like there's this that I don't know if you were in administration and you had to be front and center in front of like, right.
Mhm.
So I feel like there has to be sometimes that little element in someone. I don't know, maybe if you did, drama club in high school or something. Did you?
No.
Oh, because I feel like there's one
But I'm dramatic. I'm dramatic. So
but there has to be that 1%, I feel like, where you could kind of carry
yes.
yourself to do this because, it helps the flow. Because I have had other people on here before where there's a lot of like, I just edit out, like we're not, it's the flow isn't as quite, I just lucked out finding Marcy, I think, because we can just keep talking and talking. But yeah, we focus on cigars. We always talk about what we're smoking, the history behind it, the wrapper, the binder, this and that, and the flavor notes. But I just want to say, when you were saying about regional, the owners of this cigar, I just interviewed them. I have that coming up. I gotta post that any minute now. But they are based out of Manhattan, and this actually is put out with them with AJ Fernandez.
Oh,
so I know
yes.
AJ. So right, so that's big. So hopefully this, if it's not already down by you in Maryland, Virginia, then we got to get it because it's so good.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I'm definitely going to be looking for it. And it's funny that you say that when you looked up and you found Marcy. It's funny because you do have to have that element of being able to be social while on camera, because it is almost like being at a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
But it's really just you and a camera, or you and a co-host and a camera. So I was not in drama class, but I'm dramatic. But I used to do a radio show. So I did have that. I did that for 4 years. And then decided, because I always said that if someone put a microphone in front of me, that I was going to take my chance. And someone actually said, "Hey, you want to do a radio show?" And I was, and then they said it was live streaming. So I did a radio show that was live streaming, and my very first show was the highest rated show on that radio station ever. And I'm like, I was just being myself. I'm just me. I mean, and the plus was I got to drink while on the show.
Whoa. I might
Forget about it. So it was like I was in my element. So that was the basis for me then. After I started doing the cigar influencer thing, that was the basis for me saying, you know what, I think I can, pick this up again and rename it. And, because it was We Be Swangin'.
Oh, that's where that comes from?
That's where that comes from. But actually, We Be Swangin' is actually part of my name. So and most people don't, I mean, this is so like off topic, but WEB, which is We Be, right? That's Webster. And then Swangin' is actually my mom's maiden name.
Oh, so look at how that worked out.
See how it worked out? See, it all rolled in together.
You ended the radio show? That just came to a natural end, and then
it came to a natural end. I didn't renew.
Or no?
And no, it wasn't. It was that show, because I'm also an author, was also about authors that I could get, and I had R.L. Stein, Eric Jerome Dickey. I had like these names: John Gilstrap, Jeffrey Deaver. Like I had, because I knew them from my author world, so they were, excuse me, the people that I would interview. So for that, it was like, oh, okay, let me do that. And then I found cigars introduced by Pam and Walter, my camping friends. Excuse me. And fell in love with it, and here we are. And then found you and have literally, I don't even think I watch a lot of podcasts anymore. Like I started watching yours, and even though I'm behind a few episodes, it's like I'm just waiting. I get the notifications, ding, new podcast. So I know we're running out of time, but we're going to continue this. So if you get that, I'm just saying this just in case it gets cut off. If it gets cut off, I'm going to restart it, and then we can log back in and we can continue our topic, because I didn't think we was going to just, continue having this conversation. But it's a conversation with Coco. So, I mean, what else could you ask for?
Do you have another interview after this, or you have
No, I don't have another interview until 2. So that's, we have until 2:00.
But how much time do you put up on YouTube?
So most of the time I only put like 30 minutes on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. Have we been talking for 30 minutes?
We've been talking for, I think, 21 minutes, I believe. So when you do your podcast with Marcy, because sometimes you're an hour and a half or something like that. Do you have to edit down a whole lot is there a set number that you want your podcast to be?
Honestly, no. I mean, honestly, no. It just flows. Generally, it's about, it falls at 50 minutes, I find, but it could be honestly anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours. It really depends on what's happening, what I'm doing. But generally they sit around an hour, because we just film and then I edit the whole thing on the phone. So I just use the Splice app, and then I throw it up there.
I didn't know that you could, and I use Splice all the time. I didn't know that you could do longer videos like that on Splice. Good to know. See, good to know. Now I know.
Yeah. Well, I think you just have to have the memory in your phone, because honestly I don't think I've gone longer than an hour and a half on Splice, but we'll film in here for like hours, and then I just cut it up.
So do you have a dedicated day that you do your filming, or is it just when she has time and can come on over and do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like it to be more, but we're both extremely busy. We both actually have day jobs. We both have our own small business. She's a professional photographer.
I know the boudoir pictures.
Yeah, so we just try to find the time. I have another host, Michelle. I got that in the queue too coming up. So she wants to come here once a week too, but it's it gets hard to just kind of find the balance. But now that summer's on its way, I think hopefully we'll be able to get more up. But I just also wanted to say shout out to She Smokes Too. It's those two ladies. I'm not sure if you realize they work at JC Newman in Florida.
Yes.
Because I don't know, and I've said this on my podcast, I don't know that it's a podcast, but they do like they tout it as that, but they're the other ladies that they have a lot of good interviews. And so they're the other one. But yeah, when you say like when you open like cigar podcasts or even cigars on Spotify, I think you and I and I don't even know if they're on Spotify, are the only ones that come up. So
right, which is not, that's a good thing for the both of us. So
all right, so you're on Spotify, right?
I'm on Spotify too, yes. And I always have to remember that I have to, once I do the video part of this for YouTube, that I have to go over to Spotify and then do the audio part, because they don't just intermingle and do them together, which would make my life so much easier. But I mean, I don't really have much else to do anyway, so but so have you, when you and Marcy, because I haven't seen one that has been really bad, but the funny thing is, this is the one thing I always notice about your podcast. Marcy gets through her cigar and yours always goes out.
Mine just went out just now. Yeah, I guess I'm just letting it sit. I'm talking, so yeah.
So do you eventually get through the whole thing, or do you have to just like chuck it up and be like, oh man, I'll get back to it in a couple hours?
Yeah, sometimes, I find it's funny. There's two schools of thought, right? It's really split down the middle. I don't know what you tell me what your cigar lounge uh friends tell you at at home. Sometimes people say like, oh, once it goes out, it's done, blah. But I honestly, like, me, I don't know if it's taboo. I'll, like, if this is right cold when it goes,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not cold yet, it just was been sitting, I'll cut it
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll just relight it. I mean, look how much, it's just a beautiful
Right.
cigar. So I could and will smoke a cigar once
Mm-hmm.
it's like like out and cold, if there's plenty left to it. But because I don't want to waste it. But some people, they don't. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of like, I'm just talking, and then once it goes out,
Right.
it is. But
I
yeah,
listen, I do the same thing. If I'm talking and it goes out, I just, I roll it around, let the ash come off of it, and I retoast it, light it. Now, if it's been sitting for over an hour, I will clip it and then continue on. If it's been 24 hours, I chuck it up like you wasted a cigar type of thing, because I won't do it after 24 hours. But anything within that 24-hour range, I'm like the first 48. I get the countdown clock stops, and it's like, okay, 24 hours, you got another hour left, you got 2 hours left, and then I'll, think, oh, okay, let me get some coffee or beer or, something so that I can go through it. And sometimes it's just water, not a lot. Sometimes it's water that gets me
have
through
you
it.
ever tried? Now, I think you said you can't smell. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
So the taste, what's the taste like for you with a cigar? Is it something's coming through at all?
Yeah, which is weird because my taste is so pronounced now.
Yeah.
So I taste more than what normal people would because I don't have that sense of smell. So it's funny because when I'm around certain people, they know I don't have a sense of smell, and they'll say, "Oh my God, that smells so good." And then they'll start to say what it smells like. And I'll be like, but that's not what I'm tasting. I'm tasting X, Y, and Z. But you're smelling that, but I'm not tasting that. So it's almost works to my advantage because they will tell me what they smell. I will tell them what I taste. And then
Yeah.
they will then say, "Oh, I wasn't picking that up, but now that you said it, let me rethink it and let me do it again. Let me drink some water, figure it out." And then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I do pick that up a little bit." So it's it's kind of a weird dynamic because it is every time I do have a cigar, the first thing I'll say to someone, whoever's around me, "What does it smell like? Can you smell this? Tell me what that
Mm,
smells like. What
yeah.
what do you think?" Or because I never read the box, right? I never read, notes of cocoa and this and that. I
Yeah.
never read any of that because I don't want that to be what
Yeah. Like like
power suggestion, right?
yeah.
I don't want that. I just go into it blindly. Then after I start tasting it, I write it down and then I go and look at the box. I'm like, well, that ain't none of this. That ain't coming through. And it's been and sometimes I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I will then like do a review and I'll say, this is what I picked up. And then I
Yeah.
might sometimes say, but it's supposed to have this, and this. I didn't
Yeah,
find
that's
this.
true because I find the same thing. Like I can taste a lot of things. I mean, I technically have a super palate, but because my son had the science kit once at school, and we took there was like litmus paper, and I don't know if you ever heard of it. Like there's five
Mm-hmm.
tastes, and if you just most people taste three or four, this and that.
Right.
But honestly, too, like I totally agree with you. If the cigar says like on the whatever in the ad, vanilla, cedar, sometimes it doesn't always come through for me either. It really depends on, I really feel like what you already have on your palate too, or
Right.
because like if I'm drinking coffee or if you're doing whiskey, it could maybe persuade, or are you like, what, can you retrohale?
No. I
Yeah,
can't
because
wait. Okay, hold that thought for a second. Hold that thought for a second. I'm gonna end this right now. This is part one. This is part one. We're coming back with part two. So hold on for